how do you know if your tshuva is being accepted by Hashem? Meaning, how do you know if you're doing good or not? Now, of course, everyone knows the obvious. If you're violating Shabbat, you're not doing good. If you're wasting seed every day, you're not doing good. If you're still walking around without clothes on, you're not doing good. Unfortunately, some people are clueless about this. Even more so, a person can be doing tshuva, can be going on the right path, but still be on the side of the klipa, meaning the side that you don't want to be on. And the same thing even goes for people that are already frum. There are plenty of frum people that are extraordinarily righteous, tzaddikim, that you could literally smell the kedusha from afar away. You can see how they live their life. And then there are some reshaim, wicked people, that happen to wear a kippah, that happen to cover their head, and even sometimes happen to cover their body, and walk around modest, but we extremely wicked, like these criminals that are being prosecuted. And this is the reason why we have to continue speaking against them, because they are literally evil people that are destroying any part of society they're being allowed to be a part of. But they walk around and sometimes they pretend to be religious, sometimes pretend that they're proud of their Judaism. But I can assure every single person that's watching this, they do not present Judaism. They are not considered religious. They are considered reshaim that have no share of the world to come until they do tshuva. We want to make sure to distance ourselves away from those reshaim. As Moshe Rabbeinu said to Am Yisrael, stay away from those people. Stay away from those wicked people, lest you get punished just for being next to them. And it's important that a person know what is actually being said in the Torah. The key is to understand what our holy Torah tells us, because everyone wants to know where they stand. Everyone wants to know if they're on the side of the klipa or they're on the side of the kedusha. And one of the hidden tests that the Zohar Kadosh tells us about in regards to knowing where you stand. And in fact, it is a very, very easy test to do. You can do it without supervision. You can do it as we speak. I suggest you think about it, but you won't have to think much. 30 seconds, you probably already have it. Why? You'll know you're standing in good place. As long as you continue, good for you. Olam haba is being prepared for you as we speak. With that being said, Rabotai Yekarim, let's dig in to this beautiful parasha, Parashat Vayekel, and see what we can learn. This entire parasha is talking about building the Mishkan, all of the construction of the Mishkan, the menorah, the Aron HaKodesh, all of the different amazing things that were there. And the whole parasha talks about the details. But yet, in the beginning of the parasha, Hashem sticks a couple of sentences in there that seem like they don't fit. Where it says Moshe assembled the entire assembly of the children of Israel, and he said to them, these are the things that Hashem commanded to do them. For 6 days work may be done, but the 7th day shall be holy for you. A day of complete cessation before Hashem. Anyone who does work on it shall be executed. You shall not light fire in any of your dwellings on the Shabbat day. And then it goes back to the Mishkan. That's it. But the question still remains, what is it doing here? These couple of sentences about Shabbat seem like they don't fit. If you told me about this in next week's parasha, the week after, fine. But why is it here? And especially, it's only a couple of sentences. You have to keep Shabbat. We heard already. We have to keep Shabbat. We've been hearing about Shabbat already for the entire book of Exodus. Why do we have to be reminded of it again? That's because, Rabotai Karim, we learned about the horrible sin that Am Yisrael made, the mistake by following the Erev Rav with the golden calf. The golden calf's sin is something that Am Yisrael is still suffering for until today. This idolatry was something awful that Am Yisrael had to get punished for in different ways. Those that mamash worshiped the idol, they got killed by the water that Moshe Rabbeinu made them drink. Those that sinned a little bit, the Gemara says Moshe Rabbeinu and the Levi tribe killed them with the sword. Those that thought about sinning, they didn't quite sin, but they thought it's a good idea. They're on the way to go do it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed them with the plague that followed. But then there was those that didn't sin, but they watched their brothers and sisters, their fellow Jews, sin, and they didn't say anything. They didn't rebuke, and they're being punished until today for that. As the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says that if a Jew sees another Jew making a biblical sin, he must rebuke him, and if he doesn't, he'll get the same punishment as him. In so many words, he's considered as if he sinned himself. So after this golden calf, and Hashem forgave us, but with a condition, we need a tikkun, we need a rectification. HaKadosh Baruch Hu reminds us, the rectification for Avodah Zarah is observing Shabbat. When you observe Shabbat, like you're supposed to, you know the laws, you know what to do, you're celebrating Shabbat, it's not like a burden on you, you learn Torah on Shabbat, you're not talking business on Shabbat, that's a tikkun for Avodah Zarah. And what is it doing here? Because we need a tikkun for the mistake we made. And therefore, before we get into building the Mishkan, we have to know observing Shabbat is required in order for you to turn your own house into a house of Hashem. This is why, for all people that want to be in love with Hashem, and for Hashem to be in love with them, for them to have a share in the world to come, for their tshuva to even begin, they must observe Shabbat. Without observing Shabbat, no mitzvah that you're doing is going to be rewarded in Olam Haba. Why? Because you have no Olam Haba that's good. Any mitzvah that you do, you'll get rewarded in this world. Because a Jew that does not keep Shabbat has no share of the world to come. So here HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, yes, I want you to build the house of Hashem, the Mishkan, but I also want you to turn your house 3,000 years later into a house of Hashem. You want it to be a house of Hashem? It begins with Shabbat. You want to do tshuva? It begins with Shabbat. You don't keep Shabbat? No tshuva.
אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל אשר יפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הודיעו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.